Ray is got 40 years of background in the banking business, but he's a techie like the rest of us, and he's been very active as technology. He is currently the president of APCUG, which is an international organization. It's a group of user groups, which STUG is a member. Ray also is on the staff at Tech for Senior. With that, Ray, I am going to stop sharing my screen. I will turn it over to you.
Well, thank you so very much, Yui, and I'm glad to be here, and I'm really thrilled to see such a nice large group. When I do these presentations, sometimes it's only 4 or 5 people. So looking at this large group today is going to be fun. So let me share my screen. All right, Yui has already given some background information on me, so I don't want to repeat too much. If my accent hasn't given me away, yes, from New York. I love to tell people that I never had an accent until the day I arrived in Arizona. From a musical point of view, the former president of an organization we had when I lived in California called the Doo-Wop Society of Southern California, and we focused on the putting on live stage shows of the vocal groups of the 1950s and early 60s. And then there's an organization called RCA here in Arizona, Record Collectors of Arizona, and I host that group that meets weekly via Zoom. And we also have a monthly meeting in person down in Phoenix. And we jointly listen to and watch music-related YouTube videos and discuss the early days of rock and roll. And I done the same thing with a local music listening club where we meet in person at different people's homes once a month. So if anybody wants to start some of these clubs on your own, I'm happy to help and get you started. And from technology, yes, Yui has mentioned it. I used to also teach 3 computer classes at the local college here. So the part 1 is going to be how technology has changed the way we listen to music at home. And let me show you a little bit about what my man cave has. Well, hello there, folks. Since this presentation is titled How Technology Has Changed the Way We Listen to Music over the years, over about the last 70 years, I thought I'd show you that I actually have some of the different devices we used in that time frame. So we can start with the 78 RPM record, and here's my collection that I probably started collecting in 1956 and 57, because I made a spreadsheet so I can know where the different records are. We then moved on to 45 RPM records, and I keep them there. And then, of course, the long play album over here is what most of us, probably many of you may still have. And then we moved into CDs, and the amount of CDs that we have here, this is my collection, and then my wife has her own collection over here. And then now we're into MP3s. I have many of them on my computer, which I'll show you in a little bit. And then some of the equipment we used over the years would include, of course, the turntable. This is a unique turntable, in fact, that I can put a disc on here, and I may demonstrate that, press a number, and then it'll automatically go and count the number of spaces between the tracks, and then if I press number 4, it would drop down automatically on the 4th track without me having to search for it. Before we started making copies of CDs on the computer, we actually had devices like this, where you could put the original in here and a blank over here, close them up, and then this would automatically make, let's give that a little help, would automatically make a copy of the disc. The old VHS player, this is one that'll actually convert it to a DVD. And then I talked a little bit about the computer. All right, so to make this presentation today meet the amount of time that's been allotted, I used to have a separate PowerPoint slide for each one of these categories, but I'm going to just go over them fairly quickly now, just kind of giving you the timeline that people have had for music listening devices at home. going all the way back to the phonograph invented by Thomas Edison in 1877, with the first 78 RPM record actually being developed in the late 1800s. The first radio broadcast of music, they say, occurred on Christmas Eve, 1906, in a Massachusetts station. Columbia came out in 1948 with the LP album. And then a year later, RCA in competition came out with the 45 RPM. Of course, the 8-track tape, interesting story here. The 8-track tape was invented by Bill Lear, Lear Jets. I can just see him saying, wait, made this for a jet. This might work in a car. Then the cassette, compact cassette, 1963, that came out, but that and really only used for dictation purposes in those days because the sound quality was so poor. But then when Dolby tape noise reduction came about in the early 1970s, then the cassette tape became acceptable for recorded music. The Sony Walkman, which used the cassette, of course, in 1979. Remember the size of the Sony Walkman? But at that time, that was considered a compact size. The compact disc came in and Sony and Philips jointly developed that in the mid 70s. And if you want to know, it was Billy Joel's 52nd Street album. That was the first pop album on CD in 1982. iPod came out in 2001, and that was really leading the way for the portable music players. And credit to Apple, they kept the iPod going for 21 years. It was only discontinued in 2022. Digital downloads were around for a while in 2011, and at that time they accounted for more than 50% of music sales. But of course, today we all have music streaming. The first one, remember Napster back in 1999, and then Pandora, and of course Spotify, which is the largest, came to be in 2008. If you're interested in what the best streaming services are, CNET every year updates that particular title. And then if you just type in your search engine, best music streaming services for 2024, you'll see an in-depth review of all these streaming services. How many can relate to this? When I was a kid, this is how we made a playlist. Here's a little bit of a personal story I thought is interesting. I always like to share this. So I was adopted, and I found my birth family in the 1990s. That's a whole separate story, considering that the internet was just in its infancy. And I learned and met, in fact, my birth father. His name was Sam, and he played the accordion and harmonica and was an avid record collector of Irish songs and pop hits of the day. And on my birth mother's side, my half brother Joe, he's such a Beatles fan that he named his first son Sean, following the lead of John Lennon. On the other hand, my adopted parents, while they provided me with a wonderful life, they had very little interest in music. But I did get on my 11th birthday my first phonograph. So in 1957, I purchased the 45 RPM record, That'll Be the Day by Buddy Holly and the Crickets. Little did I know that Sam had purchased the same record as a 78 RPM at the same time. Now here's my point. I have yet to meet anyone close to my age where the parent and child were buying the same music in the 1950s. I think I'm unique in that. And here are the pictures of the Sam 78 RPM and my 45. I want to mention just something quick because this is kind of important about mixtape cassettes. If you have a one-of-a-kind tape that you want to has been, if you have music on cassette tapes because you made a mixtape back when cassettes were popular, and now you want to get that music, buy something much more modern, either stream it or get a CD. But what I'm talking about here are what I call one-of-a-kind tapes. And let's say that it's a loved one who's passed on, or in my case, I was being interviewed a couple of times on radio, or I was a disc jockey for 1 year. So those I want to save those tapes. So here's what I've done. The upper photos are what appear to be a standard cassette player, and on the right-hand side of it shows you the typical controls of play, fast forward, stop. But when I turn it over, is the bottom left photo shows this player has a connection for a USB flash drive, and it'll record an MP3 file on that flash drive while the cassette tape is being played. And on the bottom right, that shows a similar but larger boombox style device that can not only accommodate a USB flash drive, but it also handles a SD card. So when people have asked me, what do I do with my old tapes that are deteriorating? You want to convert them to a digital format, and this is the way to do it. Now, do you copy your CDs to your computer? And I've asked this question over and over the years, and I'm amazed at how many people do not. But the times have changed today, and the main reason for ripping a CD to your computer, well, it used to be really for backup purposes, and that's still true today. Because once you've done that and you put your computer, could put your songs on your computer, now you can have them organized so a song can be found quickly by title, artist, album, etc. So in addition, the music you already own can be downloaded to your smartphone and played without the expense of a streaming service. And most newer autos allow you to play the music on your smartphone through the car sound system. And I will be talking about that in a little bit. But another option is to copy the MP3 music files to a flash drive to play in your car as well. So these I'm going to go over in a little bit. Now here's something that most people I've talked to really don't realize, but how does a computer know what songs are on a CD? Well, think about it. Music CDs were first introduced to the public long before the PC became standard in the home. So for all these older CDs in circulation, the data for the song title and artist, they are not stored on the actual disc. So when you insert a CD in a computer, the metadata is automatically retrieved within seconds from an online database by comparing the number of tracks on the CD and their individual times in minutes and seconds. So the chances of two different CDs having the same number of tracks and each track being the same length of time are remote, but it can happen. So there's several online music databases, with Gracenote being the most popular. Now, more recent CDs do have the artist and track information encoded into the CD, so that data can be read by CD players used in cars and homes. Another question I often get, how do singers, composers, and others get paid from streaming? And the streaming services, that would be Spotify, Apple, Pandora, etc. They receive the income from two main sources. So when you have a free account, it's free to you, but the advertisers are paying the streaming service to interrupt the music you are listening to with ads. And then, of course, you can have a subscription account, and that's where you pay the streaming service a monthly fee so they can choose the music. The user chooses the music they want to hear without interruption. Now, what the music service pays the artist and others entitled is complicated and based on a variety of factors, such as the payments being more from paid subscribers versus the free service. So as an example, would-be streaming service pays an artist, you see it 0.0032 per stream, basically 1 cent for every 3 plays. So who are the artists with the most streams, do you think? So I'm going to ask you the question. For the years 2020 to 2022, think to yourself, which artist had the highest number of streams for each of those years? Hint, it was not Taylor Swift, nor was it Adele, nor the Canadian singers The Weeknd, that's the correct spelling, or Drake. Are you ready with a little bit of a drum roll here? It was Bad Bunny. And some of you are saying, who the heck is Bad Bunny? Well, Bad Bunny is a 29-year-old Puerto Rican rapper and the first non-English language act in Spotify's most streamed artist of the year. In 2022, he had 18.5 billion streams. That's billion with a B. Now, Taylor Swift did take over that role in 2023. She was the winner, and it set a record with 29.10 billion streams. And I bet you that record's going to be broken this year. We'll see at the end. So, whereas in the past, music was dominated by the English-speaking countries with physical sales of media to their residents, today streaming allows anyone in the world, with a cell phone to participate and show support for their favorite artist. So to stream or not to stream, that is the question. So you should consider streaming. Let's say you don't have a large collection of music, but you'd like to have access to your favorite artist, or you want to discover new artists. Maybe you're going to downsize and you don't want to have the obligation of storing and maintaining a collection of vinyl or CDs. You listen to music every day and want to have it readily available. But then again, you don't need to stream if you really don't have that big an interest in today's new artist or the various pop offerings. Well, listening to music is not an important aspect of your daily life. And maybe you've been collecting music for decades and already own all the music you ever want to hear. Well, that being the case, I'm going to repeat what I said before. Take the time to rip the music to your computer and then to portable storage devices so you can play that anywhere. Now, here's a couple of apps I'm going to suggest that you might want to download to your smartphone. If you ever hear a song playing but can't recall the name or artist, well, there's two apps. One is called SoundHound and the other is Shazam. And when they're on your smartphone and you hear, let's say you're out shopping and you hear a song playing in a mall or somewhere, you just take out your smartphone, turn on one of those apps, and it'll immediately tell you the song title, the artist name. Sometimes it'll give you the lyrics, tell you where there's a video available, gives you the more information about the top artists and more. Really nice to have on your phone. And if you want a music player for your Android smartphone, now that Google Play Music is retired, I use one called Music-Olé. It's my choice for the song saved on my Android phone. Has a lot of nice abilities. Now you can have your cake and eat it too. Let's say you still have quite a few LPs. Well, today's modern phonographs, number one, they can connect to your they connect with your standard RCA inputs. They don't longer need the higher amplification phono connection that was used on older receivers. And then they come with a USB cable attached. And when you attach and connect that to your computer, as the LP is playing, or the 45 for that matter, as the vinyl is playing in real time, it records as an MP3 file. Hey, are LCPs taking us back to the future? According to Rolling Stone magazine, the sale of vinyl records in 2020 generated more annual income than compact discs for the first time since 1986. And then since CD sales have been declining 3 times as fast as vinyl sales. In 2021, CD sales did increase by a little over 1% from 2020, and experts attribute this to Adele's top-selling CD at the time titled 30. Most older people who were buying Adele music wanted it on a CD. A reality check reminds us that streaming is the most popular way to consume music, accounting for over 80% of industry revenues in the US. So, but are LPs taking us back to the future? Something old and something new. The newer LPs are no longer black. They're very, very colorful, and they are getting more and more younger people to want to go out and buy an LP. But here's an interesting and revealing statistic about that. According to recent data, only half of the consumers who have purchased vinyl records in the past 12 months own a turntable or a record player. In other words, a significant portion of buyers lack the equipment to play the records they've purchased. Imagine that. The reason is they want something tangible, something they can hold in their hand to show support for their favorite artist, while at the same time using more modern methods to listen to the actual music. As little Anthony of the Imperials once said, there are just two kinds of people in the world. I say there are music listeners and music collectors. Obviously, longtime record collectors have and continue to use a turntable. I have 2 in my house and a spare in storage. But the resurgence of vinyl records and the nostalgia associated with turntables has led to increased sales, which I expect to continue. Have we gone back to the future? That picture says it all. Gone from vinyl record to 8-track tape to cassette, compact disc, MP3 file, and back to a 12-inch vinyl LP. Now, just a brief period about what is high-res audio and should you care. Streaming services like Tidal and more recently Amazon Music HD are touting their ability to stream music to smartphones and most digital hi-fi components as high-resolution audio. Simply put, high-res audio are music files that have a higher sampling frequency and or a bit depth than a compact disc. That's pretty high to begin with. Positive is a high quality sound reproduction. Negative really requires high-end speakers to receive the full benefit of a very large file size. Now I'm going to move to part two, and this is now listening to music in your car. How far we've come from the AM radio. Yes, music in the car has evolved. Going back to the AM radio, then they added push buttons. Then all of a sudden they came in with the FM band. Then they added an 8-track player and a cassette player. We, of course, remember the CD player, then the multiple disc players. All of a sudden we had satellite reception with Sirius. You can then have a wired connection from your portable player with a wired connection in your car, then a flash drive, and now more recently Bluetooth connectivity. So quite a bit of evolution over the years. It's like a deja vu all over again. Who said that? Yes. The above quote is, of course, from famed New York Yankee catcher Yogi Berra. Excuse me. Most of you can recall when the following disappeared from cars: 8-track players and cassette players. So now, in addition, the CD player is disappearing, and my 2019 model vehicle doesn't even have the simple audio connection cord input anymore. So I've been asked, why don't they have CD players? Well, think about it. It's time for new technology to take over. Car CD players have been around for more than 30 years. They've really lasted a long time. And it requires the user to have the physical presence of the media, which is the disc and usually the jewel case. And that's not necessary with newer technology. And of course, CD sales have been declining since 2004 because younger listeners have opted for newer methods to hear their favorite artists and tunes. So the auto manufacturers figured with all the newer technology, they can eliminate the expense of a CD player. So now you have to decide how you want to proceed. And we have a few options here. Option one, as I've talked about before, convert or rip the songs from your existing compact disc collection to MP3 files saved on your computer so they can be copied to devices to play the music in your car. Option two, you don't want to do that. That's too much trouble. You don't have the time. So then just choose a streaming service and play the music in your car from your smartphone via Bluetooth or a wired connection. And then, of course, there's option three, and you can be like me and use both. So option one, converting your existing CD music files to MP3. So this is the process I would perform as soon as I purchased a new CD for all the obvious backup benefits. Now, the media player that comes with Windows 11 and can be downloaded to Windows 10, that was recently updated to include the ability to rip CDs. So this would be my choice. The old Windows Media Player, now with the word legacy added to the title, has not been updated in a dozen years and is no longer really fully functional. So while it works, that would not be my first choice. And Windows users can still download iTunes from the Microsoft Store despite its official retirement, while Apple users can use the more modern Apple Music app. Another recommendation for me is the free Music Bee program. I love Music Bee. I use it on my music computer to organize my song collection. And that's the website, getmusicbee.com. And another good choice is VLC, has many ripping tutorial videos available on YouTube. Of course, ripping CDs, your computer requires an optical drive, and for newer laptops and even many desktops, they no longer have the optical drive. but external units that plug into the USB connection, whether it be the USB-A or now USB-C, they're readily available. The units for CDs and DVDs are reasonably priced, but if you get one for a Blu-ray disc, these are going to be a little bit more expensive. So there are many YouTube videos that provide the visual instruction and narration if you're not sure how to rip a CD. And if you want to do that, just type the words in your search box, rip CD to computer, and you're going to see many, many choices that'll give you step-by-step instructions. So at this point, I'm going to assume that you folks know how to do the ripping, that the songs from your CD collection have been ripped to your computer and then copied to a flash drive. And now you want to play in your car that has a built-in USB connector. So I'm going to show you a few videos now, and the first one is playing music in the car with a flash drive or a thumb drive, known as a thumb drive.
Okay, we're back in the car, and now we're going to take the flash drive that I brought with me and put it into the USB connector slot. I have two in this car. Doesn't really matter which one I use. I put it in one of them, and then I close the console. Now my audio is off, so I'm going to turn my audio on. And I'm going to go to the home key and then audio, and it's already started playing. So I got the volume control here. Now it's not picked out the correct album art, which makes sense. And for some reason, John Carpino's name is coming out ARPIN. I don't know. That's not important now. The purpose is to show you how this works. So as I said, I can use the controls here on the screen to either advance to the next song or go backwards. Now it's showing a total of 37 songs because I've actually downloaded on this flash drive the 3 CDs that I own. I'm going to now also show you how we can make these changes on the steering wheel. Here is, I can go to the next track just by using the controls on the steering wheel. I'll go back, and the same thing works for volume. And one of the nicest features is when you can actually choose a song based on the verbally asking for it. Play track, I Can't Get Arrested in This Town. And all by itself, just like that, up comes that song and starts to play. So think about as you're driving and you don't want to have to be touching the screen or anything, you can just speak what you want and the system will respond. And if you're driving with a passenger who wants to see what other songs might be available, the passenger can tap the browse button, and then here list all the songs we have in alphabetical order. And so when you get to one you like, the passenger can do, okay, let me hear this song. So lots of nice features by using a flash drive in the car.
All right, we now know how to use a flash drive for those cars that have the USB connector. This really isn't new. I had a 2008 vehicle that had this feature. And as I said in the video, the ability to verbally request the song or the artist you want to hear, that's really a neat feature because it allows hands-free usage, thus improving safe driving. And let's face it, it's easier to carry one flash drive than a box load of CD discs and jewel cases. Now we have to get the sound to the car's speakers. And this I'm going to talk about Bluetooth. Bluetooth systems allow you to pair your smartphone with the car stereo head unit to play the music wirelessly. Now, while it's a simple process, it's best to check YouTube videos as the pairing procedure differs slightly among the various car manufacturers. Of course, your car dealer is another option that can help you in this regard. And another way to get the sound to the speakers on older cars is the audio jack cable. Now it's starting to disappear, but the older devices have a audio jack on them, and you typically would use that with wired headphones. but that can now be used on older cars that have this type of connection. It's usually called the AUX, aux, or auxiliary connection. And then there's what's something called an FM transmitter. And I'm going to show a little bit more about these and how they work.
Okay, we're back in the car, and this time it's going to be a demonstration of how the Bluetooth works when your phone is paired with the head unit in the car. And I've already done that with this phone. And this particular system is called Sync 3, actually allows for the pairing of several phones. So you could have your spouse's phone, you could have your kid's phone, and depending who wants to play the music on a particular drive, we can easily change to whose phone is going to be paired. So now in this case, I have brought up on my Musical.ly app the song by John Carpino called Get This Thing Right, and it's from the Evolution LP, and I'm going to use the button on the screen here to play it. Let me turn up the volume a little bit. So it's coming out, and that's nice, sounding good. But now imagine I'm driving. I don't want to actually take my hands off the steering wheel. So I can just go to the controls on the steering wheel, and I can change the volume this way, either up or down. And likewise, if I want to go to the next track, it's just click on the seek button, and there's the next track. So again, safe driving. My hands really aren't coming off the steering wheel, and yet I'm controlling what I want to hear out of the car's speakers via Bluetooth from my phone.
So the next option would be choosing a music streaming service. And as I mentioned before, most streaming services, you have two choices. The free service with ads, where the service decide what songs to play in the genre you prefer, or where you're willing to pay. It used to be $10 more, but it's now a little bit more monthly, and you choose the songs and artists you want to hear. And the streaming leaders in this case would be Spotify, YouTube Music, Apple Music, Amazon Prime. Amazon Prime in particular is good for those who are already paying for that service because this is an included benefit. So it's an excellent way to experience and experiment with a streaming service where you don't have to pay anything extra initially. Now that's the basic Amazon Music service. They also have one that's known as Amazon Music Unlimited, and that one you pay for, and I like to advertise that they have upwards of 100 million song choices available.
All right, we're going to now use a streaming service. So I have Amazon Prime on my phone. Amazon Prime is free. Temporarily, I've also started a trial version of Amazon Music Unlimited, and that gives you many, many more song choices. So I'm going to tap on my Amazon Music on the phone. Comes up, and it looks for the search history. I have John Carpino's name in already, so I'm going to keep it there and tap on that. And on the phone now it's coming up with several results, and it has John Carpino as the artist. So I'll tap him, his name, and then it's showing the different albums that he has. Some of these I own, but some of them I don't. So if I go to this one here as an example and tap on it, it's going to show me all the different songs he's done. And I'm going to play the first one. I just tap on it. And now, even though it's playing on my phone through Bluetooth, it's coming out through the car speakers. And just like we did before, I can control the volume on the steering wheel. And I can also go to the next track on the phone, the next track on the phone, or come back. So again, all the things that you'd like to do and hear the music from your phone when it's connected via Bluetooth and you have a streaming service, you can hear all the different songs coming out of the head unit in your car. Okay, now we're in a car that does not have Bluetooth, but we still want to be able to utilize the our cell phone as an example with the music we have on it to play in the car. So in this case, I use a wired connection. So normally most phones have a speaker jack. Instead of using the plug for headphones, I'm using it to connect it to the auxiliary input jack in this particular car. And I have a little holder here, and I'll talk about that in a second, that puts the phone right within easy reach of my hand as I'm driving. So I have it all connected, and I have my music Olay system set up. I want to hear a particular song, Hey Memphis by John Carpino. I just press the play button. And now again, it's coming out of the car speakers. Control it with the volume control here like I normally would. But I have all my music with me on my phone connected to the car, even without Bluetooth. Now what I've done is also I use this little bit of a holder here, and I'll just take this off for a second. This just clips right into, just hangs right on the CD insert spot. So that way, but it won't move, and I like it because it's within easy reach. Some cars have more vents, and you can use clips like that too, but for this particular vehicle, I think this worked out the best. Put this back, lock it in a little bit.
All right, so finishing up here a little bit, I want to just mention for older cars without audio, some of the modern audio features, there is what's known as a cassette adapter. And I'm going to show some of these. This allows the use of a cassette player in older cars with modern devices. The audio cables, which I just show you to connect a smartphone to the AUX connector, and then an FM transmitter. In general, as new technology is created, so are methods that provide workarounds for older cars.
Okay, folks, now we're going to move on to a vehicle that is so old. This is my 20-year-old motorhome that the fancy entertainment system consists of an AM/FM radio and a cassette player. Then what do? Well, you can get what's called a cassette adapter. Now, the cassette adapter costs under $10 at Walmart, and this one is a wired cassette adapter, and I just recently learned that on Amazon you can buy a Bluetooth cassette adapter that will come without the wire, and it'll connect via Bluetooth your phone and the cassette, so whenever you're playing it, and I'm going to give you an example of how that works now. So I'm going to take the cassette adapter and put it into just like I normally would. Yeah, the wire is sticking out, but that's no big deal. And the other end of the wire is connected to the speaker jack on my smartphone, where I have the song ready to play. And I'm going to press the play button, turn up the volume a little bit. And this is my friend John Carpino, who's given me permission to play all of his music for these instructional videos. And it's close enough to me while I'm driving. If I want to hear to the next song, I could just tap on the button that goes forward to the next selection, and there it is. So, and again, but the volume is all controlled on what I normally would if I was playing a tape. So that's one way of dealing with an older vehicle if it has a cassette player, and all your music though is stored on some kind of device like a smartphone. All right, the next item and type of device I'm going to talk about is called an FM transmitter. Now, these have been around for a long time. I had one probably close to 30 years ago. They were analog in those days, and they really didn't hold the station very good. What does an FM transmitter do? It takes the signal that you're sending to it to an unused FM radio station. So we know on the FM dial, there's lots of stations that are not broadcast on, depending where you are. You can then direct the signal to go to that station and hear it through your FM radio. So this particular device I liked. It has the ability for me to play a flash drive with music on it. So all I have to do is plug it in, and when it's connected to the DC power, it'll play. And it also, this is a neat one because it has a SD card. So I can actually put all of my music on a SD card like this and have it plugged in, and it'll play. The problem with this one is when I have it plugged in over here, it's in my gear shifter is in the way. So for this particular vehicle, this isn't working that well. All right, so what did I do? I went out and I got a second FM transmitter, one a little bit more flat that fits in nicely to the DC power slot on the dash here. You can see I already have it tuned to 93.1. That's the FM station, and on my radio here, I also have it at 93.1. So now when I play a song on my phone that's connected via Bluetooth, it'll come out through the speakers in the vehicle. So let's see if that works.
I've been watching out my window. Everybody looks confused.
John sounding very good. So this now is really close to me as I'm driving. If I want to go to the next song, just a matter of tapping the forward button like that, and it brings up the next song. And I can see on the phone, it's called It's About a Love. And this particular app I'm using actually gives me the lyrics. So, but I should be watching the road, not the lyrics as I'm driving. So that's how an FM transmitter works. You pair your phone with the transmitter, and whatever unused station in your area is not being used for a regular FM signal, you're able to play your device through that.
Okay, so what other options? Android Auto. Android Auto is a mobile app that allows features from an Android phone to appear on a car's compatible entertainment head unit and be voice operated. Now, this works primarily on car models from about 2017 and later. And then Apple CarPlay also has software that runs from a connected iPhone to provide a variety of audio features like Android Auto. And this works, again, primarily on cars from about the 2016 and later. So if your vehicle does not have a factory installed navigation app, Android Auto or CarPlay are smart ways to have your route appear on the larger infotainment screen. So this is what it's like on the left-hand screen. That's what the normal in my Ford vehicle screen would show. But when I plug it in to the phone and Android Auto appears, now I have the apps that are on my phone appear on the screen. Now I have to use a wired connection. Typically, Android Auto and Apple CarPlay work via a USB cable. You plug your phone into the car, your apps appear on the screen. Kind of annoying for those who are in and out of their cars several times a day with the plugging and unplugging your phone each time you entered and left the vehicle. So starting with model cars from about 2021, they now offer wireless Android Auto and wireless Apple CarPlay. No more cables, as it is the Wi-Fi connection that brings your phone apps such as messaging, voice control, music playback, and navigation to the infotainment screen. Now, Apple CarPlay is similar in function to Android Auto, except that, of course, obviously it's made to work with iPhones, and all the Apple apps, including Maps, music, text messages, and talking on the phone without actually having to hold the device. And Apple continues to add more benefits to CarPlay. I like this one. It's a recent feature. It's called Car Keys, and it allows you to leave your keys or the key fob at home, since you'll be able to unlock and start your car with your iPhone using NFC, near field communication tap technology. Now, something even more recent, relatively new, and in contrast to Android Auto, is called Android Automotive. And that's the full operating system that's installed at the factory running your vehicle's infotainment system and not relying on a smartphone to be present in the car for its operation. So again, messaging, phone, navigation, music playback, All these, as well as vehicle-specific functions like controlling air conditioning, they're part of the operating system. And a similar situation with Apple CarPlay, where the operating system can be ordered as a new car option. So keep that in mind when you're ready to buy a new car. Be sure to see if the model you are interested in has such availability. Music formats will continue to change. One certainty with technology, it's always evolving. Either you evolve with it or get left behind. But I like the best of both worlds. So here's an example. Ed Sheeran, one of my wife's favorites, and I like him too. He had an album that come out called Equal, and one of the songs I really liked was called Shivers. Well, on the left-hand side, that's showing I have a Plex set up, and I'm going to do a presentation on what is a Plex server and why you might need one. I have a Plex server in my office, and all my music and all my videos have been converted where they now rest on that Plex server and I just like you would with a streaming service, I can bring up either music or movies on my television in the living room. But then again, right next to that, I have a phonograph with the LP that I purchased by Ed Sheeran. So I like as I said, the best of both worlds. And finally, just about the YouTube copyright violations. They're very strict. You have to have permission from the artist. If you don't, YouTube will give you 3 strikes and you're out. Now, I know many user groups upload presentations such as this to their club's YouTube channel. So I wanted to make sure this could be accomplished without a copyright issue. So my playing John Carpino songs with his permission allows this tutorial to be uploaded if you choose to, and you don't have to worry about a copyright strike. So you'd be doing me a personal favor. If you go to his website, very simple, www.johncarpino.com, scroll to the bottom of the page and click on send message and tell him you saw my presentation and appreciate that he has allowed his music to be used.
Liked what you heard? Then support this marvelous singer-songwriter by bringing home his music. Available on his website, johncarpino.com.
All right, I'm going to stop sharing now. And I just have one final comment. I've updated these slides and I realized in the middle that I did forget to mention in the home another couple of options we have with today's modern equipment. One, I have my audio video receiver that has Wi-Fi built in. So I've connected that receiver to my phone. So anytime I want to hear music in the home, I can use the music that's stored on my phone and play it through the best speakers in the home. And of course, probably everybody here has an Amazon Echo at home, and that is probably what most people today in their home use to play the music they want to hear. So that's the end of the presentation, and I got it in on time. I'm always proud of myself when I do that, and I'm happy to take any questions.
George, you have your hand up first.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I thought that our club members, we have 150 club members who have LPs or vinyl, would be interested in borrowing a transcription device from us. But I got very little positive feedback for them. Is that because we didn't explain it, what they could do, or have any other of the people shared a device? Because a lot of people, they don't really want to go out and they just want to make digital copies of the vinyls, and they won't even play them as vinyl again. So I'm kind of curious what other people's experience was in sharing a transcription device. Something that will play everything from 45s to 78s to 33s, and whether they were able to get anybody interested in sharing.
George, just to explain, you're not a member of STUG, you're a member of a group where?
Yeah, sorry, I'm in Victoria, BC.
Okay. All right. So your group you try to do it with your group and it didn't work. Is anybody else?
one person interested, and that was it.
Okay. Jolin, you have your hand up?
I was just going to say, yeah, Hilton Head Island Computer Club, and it's been, I want to say, probably 15 years. Yeah, we had in one of our resource centers, we had a turntable and a double cassette player recorder, so we could record from the turntable to cassettes at the time. So that's how long ago it was.
Mm.
Um, Quite a few members took advantage of it at the time, but we've never had a chance. We have helped some people transfer CDs and things like that onto a thumb drive, that kind of thing. But really, there hasn't been as much request or interest in that kind of thing since then. So
Yeah, I have a
interesting.
bunch of flamenco records that my father brought from Spain, and I know that they're not on YouTube anywhere. So, I'd really like to digitize them and put them up somewhere. Okay, thanks.
And the way to do that, George, of course, is in the example I showed with the turntable that has a USB connection. And so in
Yeah.
real time, as you're playing the vinyl, it's recording on a flash drive.
Yeah, and they're not expensive. You can get them here for
30
like 150 bucks.
Oh, you can get even less
Canadian.
than that.
And I'm talking about 78 LP 78 RPM vinyl.
Right.
You don't
Cassette
need high
vinyl.
quality to handle that.
Yes, actually, 78 RPMs were not made of vinyl. They were made out of shellac.
Oh,
That's why
okay.
they would chip and break so easily if you drop them. But you can buy an inexpensive. Remember the old ones that had 4 speeds, including the 16 RPM for
Oh,
voice.
yeah.
Well, you can buy them still today. They're more, they're made currently, and they have the ability to convert. And those cost like $50. So,
Really?
but they're cheaply made. But then again, I consider the source. You're talking about a poor quality audio compared to today. So I think it'll do a fine job for you.
Yeah. And another thing, I have done transcriptions where I played them back at double speed, and then using Audacity, I stretched them back out to their original
Very.
density.
Thank you. Steve, go
Yeah,
ahead.
Ray, that device that you just mentioned, will it record in 24-bit, the high res sound?
No, the ones from a phonograph.
Yeah.
No, it's all preset. You just plug it into say your laptop, put your laptop next to the phonograph, and as it's playing, you don't have any control over the quality of the. It's just going to record it. It's going to record the pops and the crackles and those noises as well. Now, once it's done, you can take it and, as George suggested, use a program like Audacity if you know how to use that and fine tune it. But the actual recording is going to be exactly as it sounds on the record.
Yeah, because one of the audio file groups that I'm in, I was looking that they do a sort of a legacy thing of what all their components are. And I went through and priced out some of the stuff that these guys use for it. And when it got to a turntable, $2,500, I thought, yeah, okay, that's just a tad out of my price range for a turntable.
Yeah.
Considering I've only got one LP left. All the rest of them. And I think I've reasoned why people would buy an LP and not have a turntable to play it on. The thing of the pictures and the rest of it doesn't really rationalize too much, because you can get the pictures to play on your computer too. But I think the main reason is sort of a future proofing, because on the computer it's digital and it's square sine waves. It's never going to be a nice smooth curve, whereas the LP record is an analog recording. So it's possible that it could have something like the 24-bit or the higher frequencies or anything else that today's digital technology can't record, but a few years from now we'll be able to. So if you've still got the older analog copy, you can then record that digitally with the better recording that you couldn't do today.
I don't, that may be true. I don't know. My opinion is what I had said in the presentation, that it's the nostalgia. It's the ability to hold an LP. You can read the liner notes. You remember what it was like, Steve, trying to read liner notes on a cassette? You needed a magnifying glass. Now you can actually hold, but with the LP, you hold it in your hand and you're supporting your artist. So I think it comes from the mentality, are you a listener or a collector? I'm still a collector.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got most of the stuff I had on vinyl in 24-bit high-res audio now.
Dick Vogel, you have your hand up.
Yes, one of the things that I think discourages people after trying to copy vinyl or tapes or something over to be stored on your computer is you have to do it real time. If you have a 45-minute long LP, it takes 45 minutes for you to copy that LP over to your computer. And after you've done this for a few times, and maybe gone through Audacity and cleaned it up a bit, you realize how much time you're investing, and the appeal drops quickly.
Well, a lot of the audiophile stuff they do at half speed, so it takes twice as long.
I agree with you, Richard, about the time. But what I do, I don't do so much LPs anymore. But I inherited a whole bunch of cassettes that have radio shows from mostly the '90s, where the disc jockey was playing the music I like and giving the kind of minutia that I love about it. Names of the members of the group and the label they were on and stuff like that. So doing a cassette is almost like the LP, but I put it on and I go about doing something else, knowing that, and for my 90-minute cassette, in 45 minutes, I got to come back. Maybe I put a little alarm on my watch so I won't forget. But even if I do, when I come back, I just turn it over and do the other side. So while it is time consuming, you don't have to be there watching it. You can be doing something else.
Yeah, I can remember as a kid having a little portable radio. When I say little, it was the size of a book, but had portable radio, and then having a little tape recorder, and then putting the microphone in front of the speaker on the radio, and then recording the music. So any noise in the room was on that tape, but everything else.
Don't sneeze.
But that was the only way you could get music without going out and buying the 45s or the albums.
You had probably your first transistor radio. That's when transistor radios first came out.
Yep.
Yeah, there's another format that I think you missed out, was the super audio CDs.
Yeah, I have two of them, but I would guess right now, Steve, if you took a survey of all the people here, nobody else has a super audio. They're very rare. I only found, as I said, in the music I collect, only 2 CDs that are, and it's a much higher.
I'd be surprised if anybody else here even knows what they are.
Drew, go ahead.
I have a couple of gizmos that you didn't mention, or gadgets. One is, my car is old, it's 15 years old, and my cell phone, although it pairs for voice, fails to pair with the car for music. So I found on Amazon a little adapter that goes into the USB port and the aux port, and it provides Bluetooth. And it's a little Bluetooth to auxiliary adapter that works with my cell phone. And right now I'm in the market for an Android Auto aftermarket installation kit to see if I can.
I'm sorry, Drew. I was going to say, in that video I showed where I was talking about the FM, the adapter that used the FM radio, that white item that I plugged into the DC power, that is a Bluetooth. So that's
oh, so you had that covered. Okay.
Yeah, but I didn't explain it well, so I'm glad you brought it up. Thank you.
And now I'm looking to, I have a car with a nav screen, and I'm looking to put, there's 2 or 3 models available that claim to support my car. It's just a matter of finding somebody that will install it for me.
Good luck.
Margaret, your hand's up. Unmute.
Okay. Thank you, Ray. That was excellent. And I loved the way you showed the different devices. You know, one of the things I've done is I've taken a lot of my music CDs to USB drives, and then I can use the USB drive, plug in the car, or take it with me wherever I go for the music. So that's one of the reasons I don't keep as much of the CDs or vinyls as I used to. But I think that's another way to go. And I really appreciated what you showed us today. It was really quite amazing. So thank you. All right.
Well, thank you,
Thanks,
Margaret.
Mark.
Really appreciate your comments. Thank
And
you.
I've got one more question for you, Huey. How about this new AI for our meetings? It supposedly gives you a summary of meetings. Are you going to do something like that in the future? Use that?
It, it hasn't been totally accurate, but I do get them. So I know for the help desk, Jim does something with it, but we don't normally for the regular meeting because we've got a video of it.
But I was thinking this part too would be a nice summary for people to go back to. So I don't know if because this is where everything comes in for the voice. So I just was wondering if you had used it yet. So thank you.
Okay. Kate, your hand's up.
I had a question that I wrote down as you were speaking. Does all the music on your phone take up a lot of space? Are we going to run out of space on our phones?
It used to be that most phones had the ability to add an SD card, the secure digital mini cards or micro cards. And so that was great. That gave you tons of gigabytes. But most of the newer phones don't offer that anymore because they want to be so tight from waterproofing and dust proofing. So you can't add it. But I found that most of the companies are now like the minimum size is now like 256 gigabytes. So to answer your question, an average MP3 song of say 3 to 5 minutes is about 5 megabytes. So you could have enough songs to play for a whole year and still not use up the space on a typical cell phone.
Thank you very much. And when I wrote that down, I realized one more thing. I don't know how to get the music from my computer. If I rip my CDs onto the computer, how do I get from the computer to my phone?
Well, what I use is I just have a USB plug from one end of the phone and I plug it into the computer and it'll show up. Now, sometimes it doesn't show up immediately and you have to go into the phone and do a setting that says, the wording may differ from phone to phone, but allowing it to be read by the computer. And then it just becomes another drive on your computer and then they just copy them over. So you really, the way I do it is I plug my phone into my computer.
Okay, and then when you're playing it on the phone, when you're walking around the neighborhood, do you need an app to play that music?
No, if you're walking around the neighborhood, if you can, there's always a speaker in your phone. It's going
Right.
to come out of, or you can. What I do is I don't have them right here, but I have a Bluetooth pair. So I'll just put the Bluetooth headphones on, and as I'm going for a walk in the neighborhood, that way I'm not disturbing anybody else, and I can hear the music as loud as I want.
Yeah,
Okay.
Ray, I think what she's asking is, you've got to use an app to be able to listen to the music on your phone, though.
Right.
Yeah, like iTunes in an iPhone.
Almost every phone that I've seen from Samsung, as an example, they have built-in apps that come with it that'll do that. But I find I'd rather have one that gives me more. So that's why on my phone, I use something called Musicolet, MUSICOLET. And that has a lot more features in it than the Samsung audio that came with the phone.
Okay, but I use an iPhone, so I can just use Apple Music.
Absolutely, right.
Okay. One more question, as long as we're talking audio. I have over-the-ear hearing aids. How can I possibly use a Bluetooth headphone of some sort to listen to music without disturbing others? The over-the-ear, the big muffler.
Yeah, a lot of those will really confine it to just the ears. In other words, if you have a good set of headphones and they have to be there, like you're suggesting, the over the ear, others really can't hear that. Only you can.
Okay, but wouldn't I get feedback?
No, I mean they're made for listening in that way.
I mean, feedback from the microphone in my hearing aid.
Oh, I see. You're keeping the hearing aid in your.
Right.
I don't have any experience with that, so I maybe somebody else here does
Maybe
that.
somebody else does?
I don't have any experience, so I don't know how that would work. But
Most of my friends that I know have hearing aids. They have them paired with their phone, and they use phone calls and music come right through their hearing aids.
Okay. I'm going to bring my phone to our meeting, Drew, and you can help me pair that. How's that?
Deal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And Ray, it was a wonderful presentation. Very
Thank you so
understandable.
much. Thank you.
Gary, you have your hand up.
Yes, I just want to say I have hearing aids and everything pairs into my hearing aids. So Kate, it will work if you do have hearing aids.
Thank
Okay.
you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Want to thank Ray for a great presentation, and I want to thank all of the people here with their great questions. We got some good answers, and it's been a nice evening. Nice seeing everybody. This has been the Sarasota Technology User Group for September 4th. And with that, we'll say goodnight to everybody. And don't
Julie,
forget,
Thanks,
don't
everybody.
forget, September 17th is our Lunch and Learn. Please sign up and show up. A donation of $5 is all you need, and we'll have some sandwiches or some food there for you. And if you want to bring a side dish, by all means do so. But it should be a lot of fun. We get to talk to and see each other, as well as there'll be a presentation on some things about your computer that you'll find very interesting.